G'day and welcome back to another Dbz Dokkan battle video, and in this video we are going to take a look at the Virtual Ultimate Clash for this month or for this campaign. So as you guys know, the Virtual Dokkan Ultimate Clash is a great way to get stones. All of these mission rewards that you see here are fantastic prizes and rewards to get for achieving or completing certain milestones, the majority of which come from completing all 3 levels. We're going to take my selection of units, which is a mixture. I always like to show off my box a little bit here. So it's always a mixture of units that are essentially, good units, legendary units, things like that. And yeah, we'll definitely take a look at that. So the first enemy is General Tao. There's nothing particularly challenging or crazy about General Tao. We just simply need to basically defeat him. So we use the Ginyu Force for the most part. The general consensus is that using mono-based teams are the best way to go. So that's usually what helps, and it's usually what helps us in terms of fighting the bosses. So yeah, beyond that though, we're pretty okay. The Ginyu Force with their recent EZAs generally do quite well. They're quite strong, quite powerful. They're pretty solid. The extra stats and everything do help them out quite a bit. So from that perspective, pretty happy with the whole process and everything like that. Yeah, so that's General Tao done. I don't really like to talk too much about General Tao. It's not really necessarily required. General Tao, there's not anything too interesting about him. The next is Magetta. So they're a little bit more interesting in that they can't be stunned, can't be sealed, and they have a high level of damage reduction. Your best strategy for when taking on Magetta is to do something like utilize crit based units and things like that. That'll generally be helping you out quite a bit, just because crit based units or units that crit are able to punch through the damage reduction that they do have quite well, and quite sufficiently to just help you save a little bit of time when it comes to taking on these bosses, and that rings true for most of these bosses, especially as you go up and up through the difficulties. For the most part, it's just a lot easier if you do have some kind of crit and some kind of damage. But yeah, generally the bosses or the boss fights aren't as hard the longer you go. It's always more challenging the first time you do your Dokkan Ultimate Clash, rather than like the 100th time you've done your Dokkan Ultimate Clash. It's just because your box expands, you get more units, you get more options, you get a whole bunch of things, more free-to-play units come out, more farmable units come out, and yeah, you just have more options. And options are really what you need. A great way, as always, to kind of prepare for this, how do I say, a great way to prepare for the Virtual Dokkan Ultimate Clash is to utilize things like mono SBR, mono ESBR. If you can beat extreme strength ESBR and extreme strength SBR and things like that, you will be helping yourself out quite a bit. You are just going to obviously in the process improve your mono teams, create some kind of synergy team. You'll maybe find options under a certain leader or something like that, and that way you'll be able to essentially run a pretty solid team when you come to the Virtual Dokkan Ultimate Clash, and because of that you'll be pretty good to go. Next is Trunks. So Trunks is kind of like a mini version of the Vegeta later on. He can fire off multiple supers in one go, which is always a challenge that we have to be prepared for. And of course, he's pretty interesting. There's not too much to him. we can seal him. If you want to seal him to kind of prevent some damage and have greater control of the fight, you are more than welcome to. It will help you out. It's just, yeah, he's not, at least if you have a decent team, he's not necessarily the most threatening unit against that. So, yeah, I'm just gonna run the extreme physical, and we should be able to take him out pretty easily. Honestly, he's not too much of a challenge for us, just because obviously my box is pretty stacked at this point. We also have some great updated leads. You know, we have units like the Cooler. Yeah, he's recently got his easy A, which always helps when you get a lead or a mono lead. Getting their easy A, that, you know, always does tend to help out quite a bit. So, yeah, overall, I would say that mono extreme, extreme Psy has definitely gotten a lot stronger. So that fight's gotten a bit easier. The next is Oob, who receives reduced damage. He's immune to sealing, immune to stunning, but he can have his defense load. Not too much of a challenge here with Oob. There's no real special gimmick to him, so just take your best team that you can. Because he's physical, obviously we're going to try and take an extreme strength team. But yeah, realistically, nothing too crazy about Oob. Like, he really doesn't have any like special gimmick that's noticeable or something that you should be aware of. He doesn't heal, he doesn't do anything like that. So for the most part, he's pretty straightforward in terms of challenge and just difficulty that's presented to you. So yeah, you shouldn't have too many problems with Oob. Take your second best strength team, preferably an extreme strength team, because you'll have an additional advantage as well, and that will be obviously a nice little kind of challenge for you. In terms of great units for this, we have fantastic units like, you know, LR Strength Broly. We have units like, Android 21 just got her easy A. We have Omega Shenron. We have plenty of really powerful units for this. So yeah, overall you shouldn't really have too many issues. Then finally we get to the boss of level 2, which is Lord Slug. Lord Slug, somewhat challenging. He's not like the most challenging boss. He just heals. That's his big like technique, his big strategy. Overall, he heals, which is obviously somewhat irritating. I think, you know, whenever a unit heals, it can be a little bit frustrating, because obviously, you know, you want to put out damage, but then he heals. A great way to counteract healing units is to bring units that fire off additionals, because firing off additional attacks does somewhat counter the healing, but generally you just have to go for a bit more of an offensive based lineup. The more damage you do, the less the healing will count. So there's not really too much you can do there. Lord Slug doesn't hit particularly hard or anything like that. You know, there's not anything else I want to say that's noticeable about him. He doesn't like have any other special gimmicks. So once you start to get past the, you know, premise of him doing X amount of damage or anything like that, you should be more than fine. So yeah, realistically, I don't really see a problem here because he's AGL type. Obviously, sorry, because he's tech type, AGL type, because he's tech type, you're gonna want to bring a int team. Fortunately, extreme int is a pretty powerful team. It's quite strong, which is obviously very, very good. And yeah, it's just really like a rock solid team overall. So yeah, I don't think there's anything like noticeable, or I want to say anything too challenging about him. As you can see, we managed to finish him off quite easily. Yeah, he can be challenging if he starts to really heal, but his healing, at least from what I've experienced, never occurs often enough that you have these big problems with it. So it's just going to depend really on how good your team is, how much damage you have, and things like that. But overall, yeah, you shouldn't really have problems. But if you do, maybe just look into taking units that dish out more damage or anything like that. That'll probably help you overall. But that's really the only thing. So then we're finally on to round 3 or level 3. So level 3 is where things start to get pretty interesting. You know, round 3 is where you start to get like a bit more of the gimmicks and things like that. So like with this Vegeta, a big thing about Vegeta is that he basically, you know, does a super every single time he attacks. So he will do a super every single time he attacks. He will constantly be supering you. So a great way to counteract this is going to be things like damage reduction. That's going to be pretty good for you. Damage reduction is really good. Then, you know, things like you can't really seal him, so you can't do that, but damage reduction is great. Yeah, there's really not too much else I want to say that you can do. It is quite, like, obviously designed to just be quite challenging in terms of like difficulty and things like that. So yeah, overall, you will kind of just need to make sure that you bring damage reduction, you know, things, ways to protect yourself, evasion's good, anything that can just prevent these super attacks. Now, he doesn't hit super hard, so you don't need to stress about him hitting ridiculously hard or anything like that, which is obviously a big bonus. So he's not gonna like hit you for 800k or anything like that each time he supers, which is, you know, thankful. I think no one really wants to like get hit 400 times or anything like that. It's really not gonna help anyone. So yeah, obviously that's not gonna happen, so you don't need to worry too much about that. Just if you are struggling, or maybe you have a weaker team, maybe you don't have as many strong units, you can look into evasion or damage reduction. Those will be methods that do help you out quite a bit, and at least will let you control the fight, because you can place your units in positions where they can take the majority of the super attacks. Healing also is somewhat helpful. Obviously, just being able to religiously heal up his damage, that's always going to be something that's, yeah, pretty useful. But yeah, as you can see, overall, we didn't have that many issues with Vegeta. So yeah, I'm not going to say that he's super duper difficult, but he is quite frustrating. Then we have Goku. So Goku also pretty interesting. Goku is kind of, so Goku has like, I want to say in inverted commas, a one-hit KO. So it's not a real one-hit KO, like it won't instantly kill you, but it does hit very hard. So Goku has a countdown. The countdown to that attack is that it will hit pretty hard. And yeah, it's pretty, I mean, it's pretty tough. Like, it hits pretty hard overall. It's not too crazy. Like, so if you have a very strong team like we do, or like I do, you shouldn't have like a massive problem. You should be able to, yeah, you should be able to be fine. But it's advisable. Let's say it's heavily advisable to bring some kind of sealing capability. The ability to seal will help you quite a bit, rather than not bringing someone to seal. If you don't seal people, you are going to, I don't want to say have a terrible time, but yeah, you're not going to have the kind of control. Alternatively, if you don't have any sealers whatsoever, bringing units with damage reduction will be your next best bet, because you can't stop the super, and so just reducing its damage reduction is quite effective in terms of that. So that at least will help. But yeah, yeah, like I say, if you don't have sealing, it's basically just either gambling on evasion or just having a powerful enough unit to soak up the damage anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's just going to depend on your box again, but the strategy, the number one strategy, the number one priority is bring a sealer, and you'll be able to control things quite well. In terms of super strength, there's quite a few sealers. Units like the Chi-Chi unit from the World Tournament, the 200% Pepe Gal's defensive Chi-Chi is pretty good. She's at least a solid enough option. You have great free-to-play options in the form of B-Pan, who not only is great defensively, she can actually soak up the one-hit KO from Goku, but she also heals, which is an added bonus, plus her active skill, which really increases the offensive output of the rest of your team. So again, going to really depend on what you've got, but you do have some great free-to-play options, at least comparatively to some of the other teams. So yeah, that's pretty good. I wouldn't say there's anything else really too much to note here. As you can see, Goku's being handled pretty well. Obviously our team's just strong enough to basically kill him without fear, I want to say, of that one-hit KO. But that's obviously my team. So yeah, it's just going to depend entirely on you guys and what you guys are rocking in your boxes. But yeah, Goku down, only 2 more bosses left. And then we'll be able to, essentially have some greater sense of purpose as we complete the Virtual Dokkan Ultimate Clash. So yeah, really cool to get everything done. Quite a nice run so far. Not too many issues. I think the typings are really favorable to us as well. So yeah, for me, not too much to focus on. But yeah, so next is Cooler. Cooler is just an advanced form of Lord Slug. He heals a bit more, he hits a bit harder, he can throw multiple super attacks off in one turn as well. But yeah, so that's basically everything you need to know about Cooler. Not, like I say, not too much else. That's pretty much it. So yeah, basically if you've done that, if you can get through Lord Slug, or if you have an idea of what Lord Slug is like, Cooler is just a slightly more irritating version. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, overall, this Ultimate Clash has been pretty fun. Obviously, I think they're about to change things up. We'll probably start getting a new kind of, Ultimate Clash and units and bosses and everything like that. They'll probably change things up soon. I believe we're due for one. So yeah, we're about, I think this is the 5th one with Frieza. So yeah, usually it's obviously after Frieza's been all 5 types, then we are able to essentially change things up. They'll change the whole program, all the bosses will change, and everything else will change with it, and they'll get some new strats and things like that. But yeah, but Cooler, obviously with healing, same rules apply as Lord Slug. So in terms of Cooler, in terms of healing, in terms of this, in terms of that, you basically just want to bring additional attacks. Bringing additional attacks will help you to crunch down his health relatively easily. Having good linking partners will also help, obviously, just prevent you from missing super attacks, which will help you keep your DPS up, and you won't be suffering so much while you basically try to hunt down Cooler, or try to just outpace his healing. His healing is a little bit more substantial, I want to say, than Lord Slug's, quite noticeably so. When he heals, it is for quite a sizable amount of health. So yeah, you do need to weigh it into consideration. You can always see when he's healing, so I mean, I guess that does help. But yeah, no real reason as to why they show you. I don't know if there's a mechanic. Maybe I'm forgetting one, but as far as I know, there's no real mechanic that kind of lets you prevent healing. So yeah, but overall, Cooler, not so annoying. He's not really the most annoying boss. He's really just quite chilled. I've never really had an issue with Cooler. Like, he can sometimes take longer than other times, like right now. He's taking quite a while. But he never really seems to pose the biggest threat. He does massively lower your defense on his super, which is something obviously to be aware of, because yeah, whenever a unit massively lowers your defense on a super, their normal attacks afterwards can hit relatively hard. It's going to depend again on your box. maybe you're super strong, or you have a box like mine, which is quite a experienced box, and so you don't, you know, your box is pretty powerful, so you're not too concerned about Kool even after he supers. But yeah, it's just really going to depend entirely on your box. Next we have is Hirudegon. So Hirudegon is, he's again another unit that can be super irritating and cannot be super irritating. So the annoying thing about Hirudegon, as I'm sure you can all imagine, Hirudegon essentially can just be a massive irritant in the form of evasion. He's quite glass cannony though, so he can hit relatively hard. He does obviously have evasion, which is quite annoying, but with the caveat of that you only need like 1 or 2 super attacks to kill him. Sometimes you can even kill him with 1 super attack. If you get a critical and it's on the right unit, you can pretty much kill him. So yeah, but obviously that is just something that's quite annoying. Quite irritating. You know, the easiest way to work around a unit that has evasion essentially is just to fire off as many super attacks as you can. The more super attacks you fire, the more chances you have of hitting him, so you shouldn't really run into that many problems. That being said, obviously, you know, it's pretty difficult to you know, just say you're gonna hit him, but at least having like some kind of like mechanism to defeat him is better. But yeah, you obviously, yeah, it's gonna depend on RNG. Like you're either gonna hit him or you're not gonna hit him. So if you hit him, great, he won't take long. If you don't hit him, he might be a little bit annoying. Of course, you know, he does hit somewhat hard with his super attack, but for the most part, I've never really had an issue with Hirudegon. I've had like 1 or 2 close calls on very rare occasions where he's been a bit more irritating than usual, but never to the point where I would say there's a huge cause for concern. It is, again, just going to be one of those things. Some people's boxes will have no problems, other people will have problems. He is a movie boss hero, so units like this Tech God Goku are actually really, really good because, you know, he has that damage reduction against movie bosses, which is super helpful. So if you do have any units that, you know, have maybe a large amount of buffs against movie bosses, things like that, you should at least be able to utilize them for some solid performances and some extra help. But yeah, it's just going to depend on, you know, you and how you basically take on that challenge. But yeah, for the most part, not really a big issue kind of guy. Yeah, I didn't really have too many issues with them. So now we move on to Frieza. So with Frieza, to cut a long story short, Frieza is basically immune to extreme type unit. I don't want to say immune, but he's got a lot of additional reductions against extreme type enemies. So for the most part, you're going to have to run super teams. That means, generally speaking, you should probably just bring a backup super team. That'll help you out quite a bit overall, rather than running any other kind of team or anything like that. So yeah, definitely bring a backup super team of whatever type you have to, so that you can, you know, have a decent time overall. Frieza is Frieza, so you can't stun him, you can't seal him. He hits really, really hard, and he's just a nuisance. He basically, you know, it's just quite challenging. Fortunately, he is strength type, so we do have a pretty strong typing against him. Here we have a pretty powerful typing. Super AGL is one of the stronger teams, I want to say. So yeah, definitely a powerful typing, a typing that, you know, has a pretty good lineup. There's a lot of options. You've got the LR Kamehameha Team Gohan, you've got the LR SS for Goku, You've got the LR this, the LR that, the LR Kale and Caulifla are also great. You've got plenty of good LR units. You've got the Transforming Goku as well, who got his Easy A with the download celebration. So yeah, overall, there's a lot of super solid options. So from my angle, Frieza, very challenging unit, but we have a pretty solid team to fight against him. Just remember, you don't really have like a way to heal. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to bring some unit that heals. I've brought the AGL SS2 Goku, a great healing unit, really helpful overall. And yeah, you're just going to need to be careful of his super attack. His super attack does, very similarly to the Cooler, massively lower your attack and your defense. So after he hits your units with his super attack, he will essentially be doing a lot more damage. So you do just need to be careful of that, because on certain units it can really take you by surprise, and all of a sudden you go from, hey, I was doing X amount of damage, to hey, I'm not doing any damage whatsoever. So yeah, it's pretty crap, but it is just something you can't really avoid too much. You just basically need to bring the best unit you have and try and take it on from there. Obviously, he is a Wicked Bloodlines unit, and I believe he actually is a Movie Bosses unit, so you can possibly factor that into your team building. Maybe units that have bonuses against Wicked Bloodlines units, things like that, obviously might help out, but for the most part, it's pretty difficult to say. You can't really say like, oh, definitely take this unit, definitely take that unit. Just take the unit you can and take the unit you want to use, and you should come out more than fine. But yeah, that's Frieza down, and that's it for the Dokkan Ultimate Clash. So yeah, pretty straightforward really. I don't want to say that it was super duper easy, but yeah, it was relatively straightforward. Pretty easy. There's not too much like in the form of like problems that we had, at least with our team builds, but it's going to depend on every single person. But thanks guys for watching the video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, comments, or need any help, you can leave it down below. But as always guys, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care and bye.